Welcome, fight fans, to Boxing Scene's Top Stories, only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George DeMatteis. Download the ProBox TV app, where apps are available to get the full ProBox TV experience. And that experience includes the great knowledge from our world champions. We have Chris Algieri and we have Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. Well, Daniel Dubois' career has undergone a resurgence recently under the guidance of his 60-year-old something manager, Don Charles, and his assistant, Kieran Farrell. Those two have helped dynamite Dubois add dimensions to his game and overcome losses to Joe Joyce and Alexander Usyk to reach this massive title fight at Wembley Stadium against Anthony Joshua. All right, Chris, what are you seeing differently from Dubois coming off those back-to-back knockout victories over Jarrell Miller and FILIP HRGOVIC?
You know, when it comes to Dubois, I don't think the physicality was ever in question. I think there was so much hype behind him because he was this phenom, this physical phenom. You know, he was big, he was strong, he was durable, he was athletic, and he could really punch. You know, he had a couple of those bad setbacks with the Dubois fight where he got a lot of heat for, you know, being named a quitter from that fight. You know, he had a broken orbital against a very, very tough guy. At that point, Joe Joyce was known as the Juggernaut. You know, he was undefeated as well. Huge guy. Good power, was on a nice win streak, you know, at that point. And Dubois, man, he was winning the fight, breaks his orbital, and ends up retiring on his stool. And, you know, he got a lot of flack for that from the public. I actually came out publicly and said, like, hey, listen, you don't know how that man felt. You know, a broken orbital is an extremely painful and scary experience. And when you're in there with heavyweights, you can end your career on a broken orbital. It makes me think of Antonio Margarito when Manny Pacquiao smashed his face. You know, he was never the same again. I mean, that eye doesn't really work anymore. So that fight, you know, I looked at that like, yeah, listen, that happens. That's a bad shake. Injuries happen. And then the Usyk fight, you know, he lands what at the time looked like it was a clean shot, but was later declared a low blow. But it put Usyk down for quite some time. And then he ends up getting stopped later on when he was doing quite well in the fight. And again, the quitter moniker reared its ugly head. But in hindsight, looking at what Usyk has been able to do since then, you know, all the big wins, defeating Tyson Fury, you know, you look at even that loss and you're like, all right, yeah, a little too soon, a little too early for that one, too young, but good experience, especially with what he's done recently. Jarrell Miller, man, one of the best trash talkers in the heavyweight division. Maybe the game today was abusing Dubois all fight week. You know, bullying him around. And Dubois, who, to me, again, it comes down to psychology with him. He seems like the kind of guy who may have been bullied at one time and, you know, was kind of pushed down quite a bit. And he overcame that in that fight. And to score a KO against Jarrell Miller, or stop Jarrell Miller late in a fight, that's very impressive. Jarrell is always shown to be extremely durable, really big, super heavyweight type guy. Very impressive, especially with the way he looked against Andy Ruiz in his return fight. And then you got the HRGOVIC fight. HRGOVIC, I mean, he was so highly touted. They were talking about him being the next heavyweight champ. He was the guy who was going to get the Joshua fight. And big puncher. I was actually picking HRGOVIC to win that fight. Lands huge right hand after huge right hand early in that fight. Dubois weathers the storm and eventually makes HRGOVIC break. So for me, he's taken such a psychological turn in his career. And it's just about him believing in his physical capabilities. And I think, you know, George, you mentioned his team, you know, his manager and trainer, and in terms of what they've done for him, I think it's just belief. Believing in him and his skill set, getting him back out there so we can get these opportunities and actually bring to the table what everyone was always hyped about. So we have a whole different guy as far as I'm concerned, and I'm actually really looking forward to this fight because this is not a foregone conclusion that Anthony Joshua continues his rise. Dubois is a very dangerous guy for any heavyweight in the world, Anthony Joshua included.
Yeah, you know, there's that saying, the old saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So if you really think about it, Dubois, when you look back on his career, was sort of the guy that was being hyped up out of England. I can remember hearing about Dubois before I even saw him fight. And there's a lot of positive things coming out of it, that he's going to be the next one of the next big phenoms out of England in the English heavyweight division, and so on and so forth. And then all of a sudden he goes through that rough patch. He goes through the Joyce fight, he goes through the Usyk fight, and he gets a lot of negativity, all the negativity that the champ just described. And, you know, a mentally weak person, which, you know, even I was wondering if this guy had the stuff that it takes to be mentally in the right place to be at a world-class level, you know, would not be able to overcome that negative string, you know. Because before that, everybody sort of crowning you as the next, you're going to be the next big heavyweight out of England, you know, so it's easy, you know, you're doing it, you're doing the work, you're getting the results, but then you find out the other side of it, and that is when you don't get the results, suddenly everybody turns on you, and the momentum is suddenly, everything is against you, and it's all on you to have to turn that around. So I think Dubois, having turned it around with the wins over Miller and HRGOVIC, HRGOVIC was a guy that I actually rated very well. And Miller's not an easy guy to deal with regardless, as we just saw even in his Andy Ruiz fight. You know, to get those 2 wins, and to get them in the way he got them, it shows the mental strength that he does have. It shows that the self-confidence that he has, because it came to the point where most of the bandwagon riders that were on the Dubois bandwagon were off of it already. And so he's had to take that ride on his own and get those 2 wins in that impressive fashion. And he's riding on a lot of momentum now. Listen, the same things that people were praising him for early still apply here, in terms of he's still got that big punching power that makes him very dangerous. But now I feel like this is a guy who's also much more mentally strong than not only that everybody was giving him credit for, but also I think he's gotten mentally stronger in overcoming those things. Because again, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So going through those experiences, I think, has made him even more strong mentally, and made him more of a handful to deal with. Because now you've got a guy who's got the physical tools, but also it seems like he's also got the mental tools now. Having said that, look at the Joshua he's taking on right now. It's a guy who's back on the momentum. If it was the Joshua that was sort of, you know, teetering a little bit and second-guessing himself, I would say this Dubois is going to be very, very dangerous against him, and he probably beats him. But this AJ right now, the Ben Davidson version of AJ, they're both riding high, they're both confident. It's a solid matchup, because both guys are kind of in the same boat, where they were with a lot of momentum behind them, and they were being crowned sort of, in Dubois' case, prematurely. And then all of a sudden, everybody just jumps off the bandwagon rather quickly, and there's a lot of doubt in them. And then they're able to come back and look impressive and switch the naysayers back onto their bandwagon. And right now, they're both on that high momentum coming off of those things. So I think both are mentally strong right now. I think both are very confident right now. And I think both are probably fighting at their best right now. So it's going to be a solid matchup. Boxing doesn't always give you these kind of matchups where 2 guys are actually on their way up at the same time, or that ascension again on their way up. These guys have been there, they've gone down, they've come back up, and right now they're both in that ascending place. Boxing typically loves to give you matchups between 2 names, but one is typically on the way up and one is typically on the way down. So the actual matchup is lying to you in terms of the timing of it. But this fight right now, both of these guys are riding high, both of these guys are high in confidence, both of these guys have overcome a lot of negativity, and both of these guys are doing some of their best boxing of their career.
We talk about Don Charles and how he has been important to the rise of Dubois. Same could be said for Ben Davidson and his help in helping Anthony Joshua get back to this title fight. IBF heavyweight title on the line Saturday, Wembley Stadium. Don't forget, big fight breakdown immediately after the fight. So get those comments and super chats ready this Saturday on ProBox TV. It should be a great fight, and Big Fight Breakdown is going to have everything you need to know post-fight between Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. And scan the QR code, download the ProBox TV app where apps are available. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And don't forget, best live fight series in all of boxing. October 9th, Wednesday Night Fights continues here on ProBox TV. I'm George DeMatteis, and this is Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, October 9th. Chris, Primetime Colbert, and Omar Super Salcido step into the ring for what is sure to be a barn burner. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at ProBoxTV.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.